connect to all that energy and when you think narrowly that you can spend your life never realising the Englishman can yourself.
I don't know, I'm pretty
all
sure.
His mind, close your eyes. It's all disappeared.
With over 800 years,
Do you like a flag?
someone was able to prove the Earth was round.
Okay.
25
No, the Copernicus model, no, the heliocentric. That's supposed to be, which 800 years ago we were citing, because you can't prove it to me, because all of, hang on a minute, so libraries, they got the word lie at the beginning, libraries, all of the indoctrination system and the de-education you went through when you went through your indoctrination in school to dumb you down. They don't give you a classical education in the comprehensive wherever you went, right? So they get a classical education, so they cite exactly the same people. So it's Plato, okay? It's Herodotus, it's Cicero. They got all of the same classical sources. With heliocentrism, Copernicus. If you look into the story, there was a murder that went on over Johann Kepler. You know, this is a really sinister story. We're supposed to have happened all of this time ago. Okay, but we can't substantiate or prove any of this stuff actually existed. They're just giving us books, controlled books, for us to read, us to believe. That's how it went down. We can't prove it. I need evidence.
Where does the
I have it bounces around.
They say, on your right, no. With everything that I say, okay, I'm just giving you my opinion of what I think.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just
so they say, so Antarctica, okay, they suggest that it's all the way around us. Right, no, water. Okay, so water always finds its own natural level, but it needs a container to be put in. So if you imagine a high cliff of ice all the way around us, now they do say there's an ice wall all the way around us. Captain Cook tried to navigate around this ice wall to try and find his way in, and he clocked up 60,000 miles, which coincidentally is what this is measured at.
It's funny because I work in Antarctica.
Have you been there? Where did you go? You got this?
Yeah.
I work in Antarctica.
No.
Hang around the peninsula,
So-
you can sail around it, you can sail around the Ross Sea.
So
the
it's
Weddell
only
Sea.
Western Antarctica, yeah? Like no one's ever double transversed across the rest of Antarctica, have they?
Of course it is. You can settle from New Zealand
haven't.
and come down the other side of Antarctica. It's just not
Nobody's
cost
double
effective.
transversed. A guy tried to do it about 4 years ago and he nearly died 33 miles from the end, remember that? And they had to helicopter him off. The Royal sent him Prince Harry.
Circumnavigate
No,
Antarctica.
not circumnavigate, to double transverse, which means walk across the ice shelf, okay, and then all the way back again. Double transverse. No one has ever transversed it, never mind double transversed it.
It's minus 80.
Yeah, so they say. So it's at a higher elevation as well, so there's oxygen deficiency on the higher plateau. Anybody that I've ever met, and you're the third person now I've met, and I've talked to on my channel, who's been to, I talked to an Antarctica plumber, okay? He told us about what was happening with the sky, but he only ever went to Western Antarctica, the peninsula. Windle Sea, the peninsula. You know, this is all we ever see. We never see anything of this huge continent, bigger than Australia. It's all the way over here. You know, it's completely unpopulated. You know Admiral Byrd? He said that there was an area bigger than the size of America that has never been set on by ice, never set on it. Okay, nobody's ever seen it, even in the Antarctica region. And this was in the 1940s.
56, wasn't it?
Well, on the chronoscope was 1956, one of his last interviews, so he was dropping off, like he'd been on all these different expeditions. The thing is, he went down there after World War II, the biggest military operation, right, outside of World War II. He takes entire fleets down there, okay, to go and probe and try and fly across it, which he never managed, by the way. His plane cropped out, he left it down, come back, and then basically it's almost as if they found something, because after Operation High Jump and then Operation Fishbowl, NASA is set up, and there's all of these, you know, the Antarctica Treaty. Okay, now they say so we don't do any scientific research. And if you Google what scientific discoveries are there in Antarctica, it's just stupid. It's nothing. We found a spider in a cave.
Well, it's a haven for whales and penguins and
Do you see any flying birds
in Antarctica? Yeah.
Seagulls and stuff.
Albatross.
Only in Western.
Well, they hang around the peninsula, yeah, because that's where the food is.
So does it ever snow?
Pardon?
It doesn't snow there, does it? It's like a dust, isn't it?
Snows, yeah.
It snows properly.
It snows properly. Want to see pictures?
Yeah, please.
No, not going down.
So what you do down there?
To south.
Forklift driver or something?
I'm an expedition guide.
An expedition guide?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
So what sort of range does your expedition
I've just
cover?
been in the Arctic, sorry, so the recent one's all polar bears.
They tried.
Okay.
I saw it like
Yeah, we don't get that, that's all.
they tried in Italy, but when you go down, no.
What you look at, like crevasses or just wildlife?
Glaciers, wildlife, yeah,
Really cool.
whales.
If you don't want to,
I like that word.
if you don't want to.
So do you get there through the Falklands? Do you go that way down?
Which way do you go?
It depends. You can either cut straight from Ushuaia down to the peninsula, or it depends what trip we have. Sometimes we do Falklands and South Georgia.
Where's that? Patagonia?
Ushuaia's like the southernmost. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the southernmost.
Yeah.
Because to play devil's advocate, like if you had to look at the flat Earth map honestly and say, okay, what if it was possibly this, that I could travel to this part of Antarctica from these countries,
You
like
can go from South Africa, you can go from New Zealand.
Oh yeah, I've been on the South African icebreaker that used to go down there, the Gullis.
Yeah.
And I was there when Ranulph Fiennes' crew was preparing to take him across a peninsula down there at night, or through the winter, sorry.
Yeah.
And he never did it, but his crew said it took him 5 years to get permission. Now this is Sir Ranulph Fiennes, that it takes him 5 years to get permission just to take a walk across the ice, doing nothing other than maybe, having a dump. But he's not going to ruin it at all, and takes him 5 years to get permission. So, I do wonder if it's possible that if it was this ring around us, they would lock it down in the way that you would never go to the Australian section, like where the Aussies are. That would be kept by the New Zealanders and stuff.
The reason it doesn't happen is because it takes 4 days to get from New Zealand. If you go on a ship like we do, to go from Ushuaia to the peninsula, let's say the northern point of the peninsula, it's 2 days. So it's cost effective for companies to run tours there, and that's where a lot of the penguins are, a lot of the wildlife is there.
I used to believe the same story about why they used to fly the Argentinian rugby team when they came to South Africa to play rugby. They would fly them into Europe and then to South Africa. That never made sense to me, but I would accept the story that it's not economically viable. But when I started asking this question, like, wow, why are so many flights going all the way into the northern hemisphere to just do a flight that should be it's easy? So honestly, we do these round the world trips that take 30 days, 50 days or whatever.
Yeah.
Why aren't we doing round the Antarctic trips that are 6 days, 10 days or whatever? If it was a continent, mankind being as exploratory as he is, there's no reason if we can go there, New Zealand side, South Africa side, South American side, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to just circumnavigate that.
Because it's so big.
But that's just an excuse, because Australia is probably bigger or possibly about the same size, so people do that, they'll sail around that. People have got the money to spend a few weeks sailing around it, right? To be fair.
I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, what it would take for a ship to sail round or circumnavigate Antarctica. But I'd imagine
this is 2020,
it's a fuel
this is
option. There's no
2023.
fuel stations there. You can't refuel in Antarctica. It's not like your ship can just go up dock and I'll just fill my ship up with diesel. It doesn't work.
I don't know. I mean, the for example, like the South African ship down to the thing. It's not like a particularly big ship. It doesn't seem to need a huge amount of fuel to go there and back. If it's not a particularly, surprisingly, not that big. And when I went on, I was like, wow, these crew don't seem that hardy as I'd expect people to have to be, So if it was the case that it was this continent and it touched Southern Africa and New Zealand and so on in the way that it did, then those would be whaling stations. Those would be stop-off points, because the journey is not that far. Ships are sailing, 5,000, 8,000 miles on a tank of fuel, right?
Yeah.
So in theory, I should be able to stop 3 or 4 times. Make stops at the Cape and in South America and blah, blah, blah. I should be able to detour a bit, fuel up and carry on. I really believe that, if we could do it in this day and age, we would do it.
We could.
But we don't.
Why do we spend the money to do it? What do we do?
I hear that all the time,
prove
but people say the
to flat
same.
earthers that Antarctica is a continent and not the end of the world.
But we put probes on asteroids.
Yeah.
You're aware of that? We've put a car into space.
Yeah.
And yet we don't bother putting a 4K camera on the moon to film the moon. And people say, oh, we can't be bothered with that. But we can be bothered putting a car in space.
I don't know why they don't put a 4K camera on the moon.
Like Elon Musk said. When he put the car into space, which was all studio stuff, he said it looks so fake. It must be real. It looks so fake. It must be real.
I would only come to. I don't know anything.
But
about
no,
it.
it's. I mean, I appreciate your thing, but I know. I'm pretty sure that your experience on Antarctica is one where you have, as you say, you have access to a peninsula and you can travel wherever you want to on that peninsula. But that doesn't answer that works on the flat Earth model as well. You know, it works on the flat Earth model where you travel down south from here and you hit that part of it, but you're not going to the Australian part of it unless you're going over all the way to Australia, and then from there, or New Zealand, and then from there you access the ice. And I got no problem with that on the flat Earth model, but honestly, you've got to be willing to consider that possibility. That shit, I never really get, and we never really get a guy who's going, oh well, my ship is going from here to Australia, and you know that should be like commonplace. It's not on the globe. We should fly under Antarctica to Australia from Peru, from South America.
I don't think it happens often, but I'm pretty sure there's a flight that flies straight over Antarctica. So it's not a common one.
Okay, you know, so the Antarctic Treaty stops us from going to the 60th, but flights are allowed, Australian flights are allowed to the 70th parallel.
Yeah.
Recently one made the news, or was a bit of a headline, because it had to travel to the 74th degree south. Because of weather conditions, it had to detour all the way 74th, which is extremely far and out of its bounds. It's only meant to go to 70. So it would make sense to go to 90 and actually underneath and come out the other side. But we don't seem to have any record of that. And I've been saying this in public for 5 years, and no one's ever brought me evidence of here's the flight, here's the trek or whatever, and always the excuses of the weather and technology and so on. And yet we can go to Mars. We can land on an asteroid, but we can't fly underneath this globe. So is it possible?
Underneath?
Yeah. So go in at Antarctica at 1 degree and come out at 180 on the other side, 181. We can't do that. But to go across peninsulas, I've got no problem with that. That makes sense on either model. But the thing that doesn't make sense is that we don't do the thing that I would expect us to do.
I went down.
Lovely to chat to you, mate.
Take a flight.
I'm alright, thank you.
Germany, I've been to the Alps, mate.
I live in Italy. I went to the Alps.
Good, and the Earth is curved.
When you own, you can see it's curved.
Where? I've never seen it.
I got a photo of that.
Show me the curved Earth, my friend.
Maybe
Dave,
I
you
got
see
it.
it here. This gentleman's going to show
You got evidence of curvature?
Maybe I got a photo of the mountain.
Do you know what the word
That's it.
horizontal means? It means right angles to the level plane. That's horizontal. Yes, that's the meaning of the word.
Horizontal is like
No, the word horizontal. I'll show you what it means. Definition.
It's horizontal.
Yes, and it's
But you haven't gone out and done your experiments.
It is real.
See, I know you want it to be.
I have like one other question. And what about astronauts? Are
You
they
can
brainwashed?
start.
Are they brainwashed or something?
Some of them are just acting the part, just like Sandra Bullock did in the movie.
Okay, so like the entire industry, world governments are just faking
Yes.
everything
Yes.
just for the sake of us not knowing that there's this.
Well, maybe
that the Earth
just
is
to
not
keep
round.
their jobs, maybe to keep it going.
But why would we decide to overthrow
But
the
they
government?
could keep
if
their
they tell us?
jobs. I mean, they could.
Well, you might get pissed off that they're taking $60 million a day
okay. Well, it is.
and not putting it into homelessness problems.
Have you?
That is a lot of money a day.
Yeah, our government is wasting money. in
Or
other
maybe
ways.
they're
I could-
laundering the money
I
and
could-
maybe they're
from-
laundering it and doing
But you
trafficking
don't
of
believe
people.
like in aliens and stuff like that, right?
Look at the definition.
I don't know, they could be extraterrestrial. Say the Earth is a circle, like a puddle, and it's surrounded by Antarctica being the edge. And say there's more land beyond Antarctica if we were allowed to cross it. And we call that, listen to the rest. Say that we call that Terra. Earth is Terra. They would be from extra Terra. They would be from outside the Earth. and they could be coming from across Antarctica.
But have you?
And they would still be extra.
You know, like once upon a time we didn't know about America. This is what they tell us. Imagine if there's continents that we don't know about, but they exist. The people in power know about it, and they don't want us to know.
Yeah,
Well,
I want to ask.
Well, what's
I told
your
you that.
answer?
I said to him, I proposed it might be that they want to hold us in a religious belief of scientism because we haven't got religions enough to control the people.
Just for control?
Partly.
What kind of control? I want
That's
to.
one
I want to
reason.
add to that answer
One reason.
and say that I think that we are the expression of the creation. We may be the creator in micro form, but some entity doesn't want us to know that. Whether it's because it's a life test and you're meant to come find your own way through, or whether there's a dark thing that wants to control your life energy, such that you will give away your life energy for the next 40 years as a corporate slave, pay all the taxes, do 2 weeks of holiday a year or whatever you got to get, and be a good participant in this energy harvesting system.
Okay.
It could be that.
But I think
That's how
the
our
fact that
society
you're
works.
talking about this and that you came to me and asked these questions, you're on the road to discovering exactly what they're trying to prevent you from knowing, your connection to your creator.
No, I've,
So the
I've fell down the
inquisitiveness
rabbit
is very
hole
good.
once or two, many times I fell down the rabbit hole.
Oh,
I've always-
you're a wee thing, you're just a child almost.
Yeah, but like I'm interested in NASA,
Yeah.
and they're proving flat earthers constantly wrong. There were a lot of experiments where flat earthers
But
were
you've
proving
gone
wrong.
through them with me, and you said you haven't personally partook
Yeah,
in
but
any of them.
but have you
You
ever?
just saw
Okay,
them on
have you ever
video.
purchased?
Does light
I
bend?
told
Does
you
light bend
I
in water?
participated in
Boys,
an experiment.
let me ask. Does light bend in water?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so are you using a laser test to debunk flat Earth?
Yeah,
Atmosphere is water, you know that.
yeah, but it's not like that much.
It's enough to bend water, and we know over distance that a laser will scatter. So the best way to do those tests is the other way around. Is that if you're standing on the beach and your friend's standing on the beach with the laser, can you see his laser? Not can his laser come through a hole that you're holding at 6 miles away? That's making it a really tricky thing. Unless you got the military's type laser, you're not going to be able to pull that off. The military have got the U.S. military and Navy have got the rail gun. You heard of the rail gun?
I don't think that.
It's called a railgun. It's a magnetic weapon. Yeah, and it can it's line of sight. They use a laser or something to point at a ship 100 miles away, and they can shoot that ship 100 miles away. Which means the ship is not bent over any curve. The ship's still on a straight body, a flat body of water. It's a flat body of water.
Okay, but then why do snipers calculate the curvature of the Earth?
No, they don't.
Oh, they don't.
They don't. They don't.
They do.
No, I was in the military and I shot long range weapons.
Were you a sniper?
Armor. No, I was Armored Corps and I shot much
Okay.
further than snipers. By the way.
Okay.
But Dave, you did.
I was
talk to
using a
some
90
snipers.
millimeter cannon.
Okay.
It was a bit bigger than a sniper's rifle.
I
Right?
have one.
But didn't you talk to snipers the other week and they said
Yeah,
no?
yeah. I was spoken to snipers, and you know what? Even if Coriolis was real and they had to allow for that, then why don't planes allow for that?
Okay, yeah.
I have one.
Planes
I
don't.
know, yeah, I know that.
You know.
Have you ever argued with like very
Respected science.
respected
Yeah.
scientists
Yeah.
from our perspective,
Yes.
like who believes
Yes.
like the same?
Physicists,
Like, can you name
Yes.
some names?
Yes.
No, not necessarily, because often the named scientists don't want to line up and have this debate. They don't want to because there's things that you can't prove that you have to accept are theoretical upon which you build your model. And it's the theoretical stuff that we're saying no. Let's not have theory. Let's
The
only
high-profile
test.
ones won't.
Who's telling us then that the Earth has to be flat? Like, it could also just be a theory.
Nobody. You go out and you discover that there is no curvature. You discover it.
You see, the truth is your senses were robbed when you were young. You were told that you're spinning and you can't feel it. What if you're not spinning? That's why you can't feel it.
You would feel it because rotary motion.
What all excuses want.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
so
Yeah, okay.
you would feel it.
The Earth is
And
not
you
moving.
also
The
know
sky
that
is
it's not
moving.
moving.
No, the sky is moving
The sky's moving, but then how are we sitting on the ground?
because we're heavier than the air. If this was water now, would we be standing?
Now we would be floating because of our...
We're buoyant.
Yeah.
No gravity.
Okay.
Only buoyancy.
Yeah, okay.
I
Buoyancy
have
and
an idea for
density.
you. I have an
Yeah.
idea. There's a guy called Dave Weiss, and he has the sun and moon.
I'll give you my.
zodiac clock
It's
app.
on here.
Because I know this, Tyson, and he's a pretty good guy.
I used to follow these people, but then I realized I was lied to.
Yeah, I
There's
will
an
take
app.
that. Thank
Take
you.
the flight.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Nice one.
You don't talk to me like that.
There's a way.
No. Chill out.
I think
Don't say that to me again.
He was just
There's
rude.
a
Ever.
lack
That's
of
all. That's
background.
all.
But I
No,
just wanted
not
to say,
okay. You say that again, I'll fucking knock you clean out here.
Yeah, okay.
Chill.
That's very true.
I
No,
can
nobody
You
wants
don't
any.
go up to somebody and ask, do you have a brain?
You don't do that.
Yeah,
You
okay.
don't
That's
do
rude,
that
man.
in any country.
Like organs. They're in our body.
Yeah.
He's
Right.
needing a minute.
But I mean, there were some arguments where you said like, if you can't prove it by yourself, it could not be real.
Yeah.
So I'm just asking that sometimes you can't prove it by yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to believe others to.
Okay, but
Keep
what if
information.
I was the guy giving you that information
Yeah.
and then you found out that I lied to you? Would you start to question some of the other information I gave you?
Yeah, I would start
Okay, so
questioning
for
others.
me, I started
Yeah.
finding out that the government were lying about how we go to war with other countries, how certain terrorist events that have happened over the years that are not given to us as truth. You know, what happened to JFK, what happened with COVID. These things you realize, whoa, you can't trust the government. So now you start to go and test everything that they've ever told you. And you think, oh, maybe those moon landings that some people say were fake, were fake. And you go and see documentaries on that and you go, damn, I never saw this on the documentary channel.
Yeah.
And Discovery Channel will never show you the stuff that I've seen that shows, wow, they were faking it.
Yeah, but we don't have the possibility to prove everything.
Okay, but if
We
I
can't,
told you,
like-
okay, but what if I told you that I could levitate
Yeah,
above the ground now,
Yeah.
1 foot?
yeah.
Would you ask me for proof or would you just believe me?
I would ask you for proof.
Okay, so now I tell you that stones, I'm going to throw them up in the sky and they're going to float there. Are you going to believe me?
I don't know.
So I'm going to throw a stone up in the air right
Yeah.
now. You don't believe me. It's not going to, you don't believe me. But so you would say, show me. Show me the proof that I'm going to throw a stone up in the air and it's going to float there under its own displacement of time and space. Show me that. And I would have to say, oh, well, wait, I've got a video. I can show you this video. And then you go, no, that looks like a CGI video. That doesn't look real. So now I start to say, oh, maybe you got to ask the question, is he like lying to me about this? Because if I release gas in an environment, that gas is going to dissipate into the environment.
Yeah.
I know that. But I believe, because the science teacher told me, that up in that vacuum of space, gas can coalesce and hold itself together like a ball.
Yeah.
And this I cannot prove.
But can you like show me a flat Earth? You
Yeah.
can't because it's
Yeah.
too big.
Yeah.
Have you got a picture?
Well, we've got photographs. A man went up to the highest point in Wales the other day and took a photograph of the Alps.
Just Wales. I mean,
No,
they
wait,
were not
you didn't let me
sky or
finish.
something.
You didn't let me finish. He took a photograph of the Alps, 700 miles away. Explain that on a globe. And the world record photo before that was shorter.
Yeah, can we see the picture?
Yeah, you can see the picture. If you go to this channel, yeah, you can see the picture. Oh, you've got that thing. I can't show it to you right now, but before that, I would cite people photographs of Chicago across Lake Michigan, which is 50 miles. And you shouldn't, over the curvature of the Earth, as they tell us, you shouldn't be able to see any of Chicago, but you can see the whole skyline. We know that we can see on a clear day with powerful binoculars distances much further. So when the ship goes over the horizon, we can take a powerful camera up and zoom back in where the ship was and actually find it still there. It's just that our eyesight lost it into the compression of perspective.
So if the Earth is flat, what is like the thickness of it? Would it have a
Joshua and Uwiki took that
Oh,
one.
look at this photo, guys. Look at this photo, right? That's Chicago, over 50 miles away. Impossible on the globe, because there should be more than 2,000 feet of curvature according to the maths of the globe. That's not my maths, that's the globe's defense. 8 inches per mile
but
squared.
I haven't taken this picture, so
Uh-huh.
I can prove
Would
it to
you?
myself.
Okay, but I would offer you if you got the opportunity to take the test, would you be willing to take it?
I would be willing to
You
take
should.
it with some
You should.
serious-
So that's what we do. And that's what I did. Was that I went back out again and I looked at the world again. And I was like, can I see things too far? Yes, I can. You can go and do a visual test. So first of all, you establish what is the height of the observer. You can put this into Google. It'll tell you what the curvature formula should be and tell you how much curve is in the view that you're looking for.
Where
But
can I find a picture of flat Earth?
well, I mean, obviously the Earth is massive. So the highest we can go is about 150,000 feet. We can take a weather balloon to that height, and we can film around, and it seems like we're looking maybe 1,000 or 2,000 miles, into the range. But I'm only guessing. That's as far as we can see on this Earth when we go up to that height. So, but when we go up to that height, with weather balloons that are not fisheye lens, we see that everything is level up there.
So if the Earth was flat,
yes,
and there's, would there be one side of the Earth or two sides?
Well, there's a hot side and a cooling side. So if you think about an apple, yeah, and you cut the apple top to bottom open, you see how right in the center of the apple is that little dark line that runs from the bud of the apple into the core where the seeds are. Yeah, and then it carries on up into the north. Well, that's where we would be. Is that we would be on the inside of that. We're not like we're not.
What you're saying is, Earth is flat, but we are not. We are starting.
We're not. Yeah, because in nature,
so
nothing.
Which way is it flat? Is it vertically flat or is it horizontally flat?
Okay, well, it's got to be.
Horizontally, then the sun.
It's got to be in three. It's got to be in three axes. And if you think about the fruit again, like in nature, everything is contained in a fruit, a skin, a bark, a peel, a shell. Everything in nature. And so I contend that our Earth is contained inside a shell. But if you took a balloon and filled it up with some water, and not filled it, but half filled it with some water and some air and some sand, and you let it settle, what are you going to see? You're going to see the heavy stuff at the bottom, the water around it, and then the air above that. That's Earth.
Let's compare it with Apple. Apple is round.
Yes, and so is the electromagnetic torus. But inside, at the center point of the two magnetic bowls, you've got this accretion plate, this disc, and that's where we stand on.
So, why is the living creatures are on top of the Earth and not on the bottom?
As far as I know, I mean, there's things that I don't know. We're hypothesizing here, but if you drill down,
so it's a hypothesis. So it's a hypothesis. So is the Earth being round as a hypothesis?
Yeah, but it's been debunked, totally debunked though, son. You know what? It's not spinning. We've got no science experiment that says we're spinning. Your body's telling you that you're not spinning right now.
So how do we get there?
Yeah.
The moon was making
It's the sky that's moving. It's the sky. It's like being at a disco and seeing the disco lights move and thinking that the floor is moving. No, it's just the lights that are moving. It's like seeing the football fly over your head and think the stadium just moved. No, of course not. The stadium is flat, the pitch is flat, the ball is round, and it's going to fly over your head.
If the gravitational field is round in a spherical
yes.
Yeah. So why would the Earth be a flat, like almost 2D?
Okay, so you're not hearing everything that I'm saying. Think about the fruit again. That's a 3D sphere. But you don't live on the outside of the 3D sphere like they try and teach you in school. You live inside at the center where the seeds are. And where the seeds are is called the continents. And we have a natural propensity to lie down in the morning, or once we're 1 year old and 2 years old, we have the strength to stand up. And we stand up against that natural propensity to lie down, which is the natural order in the magnet.
Some telescopes have gone past, like the ISS, for example, the International Space Station. It goes like above the Earth. But when it like orbits the Earth, it doesn't really go in a flat motion. You can see a curve.
Oh, when you've seen the footage? Have you seen the footage of it?
But I don't actually
know.
I don't actually
Yeah. So what if I told you, I hate to break it to you, but all of that stuff is Hollywood.
I don't think this is
all of that stuff is done by, and it could be easily mimicked. A lady called Sandra Bullock went to space in a movie called Gravity. She never really went to space. She was only that CGI. And what if? Yeah. So when they built the International Space Station, we never saw it being built in a warehouse. All of a sudden, it was in space. But they've got a copy in a swimming pool. Now, when we look at them doing the swimming pool dives, and we find that one of them nearly drowned, or twice nearly drowned during a spacewalk, but they also train in a swimming pool. They use the same spacesuit in the swimming pool as they do in vacuum of space, which is a very different force. And they've never tasted the spacesuit.
Why can't we see the ISS from here?
Okay, so if I was to continue the trick, we couldn't see it in the early days. In the early years of ISS, we never was told to look in the sky, you'll be able to see it. But now I believe if it was the trick that I said is, then they're flying something overhead to get people to believe that. But I'll give you a little brain teaser. The ISS is how big?
Falling away from Earth at 70
About the size of a
miles
747, a little bit bigger than a 747. At cruising altitude, which is 6-7 miles, you can see the plane, but if you double that to 14 miles, you can't see the plane. At 28 miles, you definitely can't see the plane. And at 250 miles, there's no chance that we have tools that can see a 19,000 mile an hour flying object. So I say it's much lower and it's flying overhead.
It runs through fuel, it runs through the electromagnetic gravity and sphere of the Earth.
It uses a falling. It's falling all the time, and that's what makes it go around. But again, that's believing in the slingshot of gravity. That just because my pencil falls on the floor 1,000 miles up or something, is going to be held by that same thing. Once you get into high school or beyond high school science, they'll teach you that gravity attracting mass attracting mass doesn't explain the universe. Then they teach you about time and space dilation.
The gravitational pull is stronger when it's closer to the core.
Yeah.
When it's further away, it's harder to reach the gravity.
It's further away, it's harder to reach. Yeah, that's why I say, why doesn't the helium just keep going into space? Huh?
Because gravity only works on a certain density of objects, and you can see there, somewhere here, there's like the stratosphere, the atmosphere, and helium could go into space, but depending on the density, it can't go past some atmospheres and stratospheres.
Why not?
Because the gases further up are lighter than helium.
Yeah,
because
but
depending
okay.
on the gravitational pull or the gravitational field, your mass has gone like lighter. So if that's a space station, however heavy it would be here, it wouldn't be as heavy as it would be up there.
Okay, so what stops the helium from leaving the system? Because imagine if I put helium into a bedroom in your house and then created a trapdoor to the room upstairs. What would happen? It would go up, right?
Because oxygen is more dense than helium.
So it's just going to keep going up until it gets to a vacuum. A vacuum is, you know what a vacuum cleaner is, and this is many more times more powerful than the NASA vacuum. Is going to be a suction. It's going to suck everything away. You cannot have just a gas container. We know that from thermodynamics, that if you want to have deodorant, it's got to be in a can. If you want the cola to be fizzy, it's got to stay in a sealed can. If you break that canister, there's going to be equalization of pressure. And so we say that if gravity is not able to hold helium down on the ground, it's definitely going to be able to hold it from going out at 10,000 miles.
The atmosphere and stratosphere is like the cover.
Okay, you realize these are kind of just the mainstream explanations. What I was saying to you earlier is that the International Space Station is all fake. It's all done with harnesses. If guys who are really good at looking at this stuff, they find harnesses in their stuff.
Don't believe in the International Space Station, but
NASA means deceive in Hebrew.
So if that's true,
don't completely make sense.
Wait, but you play football. You
use world maps.
Yeah,
So how, if the ISS is not real, how do you know that the continents are shaped like that?
Well, okay, so you can use high altitude drones or planes, and they always were doing that in World War II, long before the ISS, to fly over Europe and other places and map them perfectly well. Yeah, is that a good enough answer? So you don't need this idea. And in fact, when you look at Google Earth and you're awake enough, you'll realize that the first few layers as you go through the Google Earth is all CGI. It's only once you get to a few miles above the ground then it materializes into a photo.
So the Earth's features, they always change, they never stay the same. So it would use a lot of power for the ISS or satellites to keep track of how the Earth looks.
People think they can see the ISS. Can the ISS see us?
It could, but it couldn't.
Okay, so if you and I, so we can't see a small thing, but a small thing can't see a big thing. We can see the small thing. So I'm going to ask you this: is that say we're running the London Marathon today, and the ISS is going to fly overhead twice, and it's got powerful enough cameras. Surely NASA can afford that. It costs $70 million a day. They've never done that. Why have they never done that? Why have they never zoomed in underneath Australia and say, look, there's some ships and planes underneath the globe? They never zoom in. If I can zoom in, if you believe you can zoom in on the ISS, which is smaller than a cargo ship, and the ISS can't zoom in on the cargo ship, there's something wrong with that formula.
Do you believe satellites are fake as well?
I think that there are balloon satellites, and that's very well known. NASA's the biggest buyer of helium, and they launch hundreds of balloons per day around the world, and that doesn't make it a ball. And they can float a lot of stuff on those, but they're not very powerful. They're not that effective. We've seen them landing and taking off. So this is not hard to do. But if you Google satellites in space, you'll find every single image is a cartoon or a CGI. There's no photos of satellites in space, and there should be video clips of them.
You take a photo of the satellite that's in space.
If you've just launched it.
Launched it, yeah, there are pictures of it.
Go and have a look. Hi, I've met you before. Yeah. Wow. What's your name? Nirvana. I'm David. David. You've got questions? Have you done some homework? Have you studied this?
It was just like a really distorted, looked like a Foo Fighter out of Star Wars.
And then how was Hubble?
It looked nothing like it.
How did Hubble get into space?
Yeah,
Hubble
that's
Space
okay.
Telescope? James Webb Space
Did you
Well,
know?
that's
there's
great.
nowhere
I mean, I
right,
can't-
They went up and they changed.
I can't
they
really
fixed
say
it
much more than
off.
that.
You remember that because you couldn't see, needed a pair of glasses, right?
Yeah,
now,
because it was
There's very little glass on the ground these days, you know. I mean, there are sometimes those little shards that can get in your foot, but I'm not earthing because we're electrical.
taking all up in space shuttle. It took it all.
I had shoes on earlier. I got flip flops on today, but you know, there's no need for me to be wearing them now. Let me see if I can join. We'll talk again. Can I give you guys a flyer of mine?
What is this?
To say that we are electromagnetic beings in an electromagnetic system. All right.
It's called gravity. Have you measured it?
Have you?
Yes.
What is the measurement?
Well, if you have a sphere of 25,000, roughly 25,000 circumference,
Okay, tell me.
you can measure that. Wait, let's look.
Oh, thanks so much. Thank you.
Welcome.
Take a chalk.
Squirrels are.
Yes, I know.
Earth is flat. Earth is not a spinning ball, and we can prove that we're not spinning. Or you can't prove that we are spinning, put it that way. And the water, when it rests, is always going to find a level. And that level will be horizontal or parallel to every other body of water resting.
Help us explain us how the Earth was made.
Yeah,
The creation.
Yeah, we
Creation.
wanted to know.
Because we know that the Earth was like
Yeah, like the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know that was invented by a Catholic priest?
Yeah, because priests were at that time the most intelligent people.
What time?
At the medieval times, probably.
He was friend of Albert Einstein. Actually, a guy called George Lemaitre. It's not that long ago. And,
Jesuit priest.
Yeah, a Jesuit priest comes up with the Big Bang, right? But what if?
What's he doing
What?
that anyway?
I'm gonna offer you this. What if the Big Bang is the moment your parents conceive you? I know you're not English, but in English we say, like, sometimes when we say we're having sex, we say we're banging. Yeah? You know, I banged her, kind of thing. Yeah, you heard that? Well, yeah, you've heard that. Well, that's one of mine. So I say that the Big Bang might be the new life, because you might be the universe. You and you might be unique universes of your own, decoding the world around you.
Yeah.
So you might be your own universe, and the Big Bang is when your parents have you. How does this material Earth come to be around? Well, I got to say, I don't honestly know. I don't know. And I used to be a Big Bang theorist. I was happy with all of the evolution and all of that sort of stuff. But I'm pretty sure that there's a higher version of you, and that intended to come here and experience this world in the way that we're meant to experience it as the emanation.
Thanks for a chat, man. It's really nice. Thanks.
Well, what does happen when we die? What does happen?
You go back to your higher self. So you imagine when you wake up from a dream.
Yeah.
You come back to yourself. You go, oh, that was a weird dream, or what a night.
Yeah.
Well, that's how it is when you go back. It'll be like in the instant you left is like the instant you come back.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, shit, that was wild.
But are you then like living forever, or?
So I did DMT in 2015, ayahuasca, and in that experience I was an atheist, by the way, and I believed in evolution, all that stuff. But in that time I realized that we are eternal beings. I think that whatever eternity is, we are having an eternal experience. But this is just a small scale, quick experience of growing and learning.
You were telling about shooting a 90 millimeter cannon?
Yeah.
90 millimeter.
90 millimeter.
19.
90s, 90.
Okay, yeah, but that's like, what's that for caliber? Like which gun?
That's it's on a tank.
Yeah,
It's like
okay,
a
okay,
light
okay.
tank. Yeah. I went to war in Angola. It was real. I had Angolan War. I wrote a book about it.
Yeah, I got the book.
He's got the book. Yeah, called Battle on
attacks.
Battle on the Lomba, 1987. Attacked by Russian MiGs. We were shooting out Russian tanks in Angola, but I had to know how that gun worked. I was crew commander, but I had to know how that gun worked, and we did not have to make allowance for the Earth spinning at all.
No.
And we were talking about mile
Yeah,
targets.
Surely, when you like shoot a gun of some sort or like a sniper, you can see. I've actually looked. I was going to see like those 300 meters and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
That's the curvature of the Earth.
No, so the bullet will drop.
That's the distance.
Yeah, the bullet.
You need to, because if
Okay.
the Earth would be flat, you would not need
Okay,
to shoot up.
so I'm going to give you a test that you can conduct to yourself. That if the Earth is curving, like they say, and all the bodies of water are being attracted to a center mass, then an Olympic swimming pool, 50 meters long, should have evidence of that. That should be long
like
enough.
curvature.
Of curve, yes. And I would say, if you believe a thing, try and measure it first before you can say it's real.
But then I could also ask, like, proof against it. Could say, why are you guys like not accepting the fact that an experiment conducted by a flat earther on a lake,
Yeah.
proving it wrong, that the curvature cannot be seen on like such a small scale. He tried it, and you guys told me, yeah, there was not.
Well, I mean, is it possible? Yeah, is it possible they got something wrong when doing the
They
experiment?
were flat earthers. They
That
were-
doesn't mean that they get
No,
everything
they were
right.
literally
I know
doing
flat
it,
earthers get a lot right,
conducting the
but
experiment, and then since they saw, oh no, it has a curvature,
Yeah.
we're telling, no, something must have gone
okay.
wrong.
Well, if I was in the government and I was in the psychological operations department for COVID or for flat Earth, I would come up with something like that
So
to
you
try
also
and
not
debunk
believe in
it.
COVID? Like those millions of deaths are just nothing for them.
What millions of deaths?
The people that died from COVID, or like,
Have you looked at the death rates of the countries during 2020? In all countries that I've looked at, the death rate wasn't remarkable in 2020. It's higher now in 2023 than it is in 2020. In Europe, all over Europe, honestly, you can go and look this up yourself. The death rate in your country, where are you from?
we're from
Germany? Germany, honestly, amongst young people, the death rate is spiking 20% above
Yeah,
normal.
that's like because of the vaccine.
Because of?
Small children are not getting
Because
any
of the
help.
needle, because of the vaccine.
Because of the vaccine. So, is
So,
there,
but
is there
the
a
point is that when we say millions died, we have to be sure that they weren't taking the same death rate and just cutting it differently to make you believe that all of a sudden millions were dying or something.
Okay.
I'm not saying that there wasn't a small increase, but if you were running a country or a city that was 10,000 people, and normally 1,000 people die every year, and then next year 1,010 are going to die, you're not going to call that a pandemic.
Okay, so you are basically saying to me like that small children, or like guys in my, or fellas in my age and girls in my age are dying because of the vaccine. And it could not be because we live in a shitty generation. We have a lot of people suffering from depression and not getting any help.
Yeah.
It could not be the
That could be part of it. That could
No,
definitely be.
that is the leading cause of
With
death in our
suicide
country.
suicide is
That's
very
not
high.
vaccine death.
But you see, when I lock you in a prison for a year at your home, make your home a prison, and do all of these things to you, then that's going to mess with your head, particularly at a certain age.
Yeah, but I would much rather mess with my head for 1 year than risk killing any other people.
What's your evidence that I could kill you by my germs?
A lot of my, or like from my mother, friends, and people I know have lost people because of COVID.
We all know people who die all the time, but who gave them the death sentence?
But did you have
COVID.
primary knowledge?
No.
COVID destroyed their immune system.
Remember, this is me passing it on to someone else. This was the lie, is that I can make you sick. You haven't got proof of that. They haven't got proof of that. They haven't. And if it was true, right, then what you should know is that you should have had 10 numbers taken out of your phone book of people that you knew, and not only that, 3 or 4 of them from the same household. Because if it's what they told you, that it should be in the same household, that if you spend time together, I'm going to make you sick, you're going to make your sister sick, you're going to make someone else sick, and in the same family. And there should be a trail going from you to your friend, to your auntie, where you went to visit, and then your granny. All of that trail. Never seen any evidence of that.
My family literally had like that exact.
They all died?
No, they're not. They all got sick.
We all get flu.
No, they have.
We all get flu. What? I'm not going to stay home. I'm not going to stay home because your family got flu.
No, they had like COVID. And I know
COVID is a
like,
name.
My entire class
COVID
got
is a name
sick.
for flu.
My entire class got sick because of COVID.
After the vaccine.
No, not after, before the vaccine.
Have you had the vaccine?
Yeah, I had the vaccine, and I think we all had it.
Wow.
And don't tell me there is a chip inside. We don't have.
I don't know that there's a chip inside.
There is not.
But I
Bill
do know.
Gates-
I do
Bill
know.
Gates did not.
I do know that the government censors this so hard that I lost my last YouTube channel talking about COVID and telling people, listen, this is your body. Trust nature. You know, your own immune system, your natural immune system has been proven by even mainstream doctors that it's much stronger than taking the vaccine. You're much better off as a young man getting the flu than you are taking a vaccine against the flu.
People that are sick, people that have like
Yeah,
a
but-
disease like diabetes, they're just gonna die because
Sorry, you can go back to
No, but remember, people in pneumonia, people get flu and die all the time because they're already comorbid. They already got other conditions. That happens. But again, that doesn't mean that healthy young men should stay at home because the guy who's sick.
Our immune system is very strong. Yeah, that's true. But some diseases, our immune system is not built
we still
for
haven't
some
proven.
diseases.
We still haven't proven that I can give it to you. We haven't
we
proven
have
that.
families that got either completely dead or like infected each other.
I know that in the same household you can all get flu at the same time, and I can't explain that. But it doesn't mean that. Like my mother was an intensive care nurse for 20 years, and she never brought sickness home to the family, even though she was dealing with very sick people.
Yeah,
we don't make
they
make each other sick.
They use
But-
precautions.
but-
You can see it in countries that are poor. Doctors got sick, like Italy. A lot of doctors got sick because they don't have the proper, like, safe spaces or like masks. and
This
stuff
is
like
lies, guys. You guys are being brainwashed into believing that we can make each other sick and that we should social distance and that we should have all these medicines because naturally we are natural beings. We are not pharmaceutical guinea pigs, and you should be able to eat healthy.
that. Okay, then how about polio? How did we?
Polio was going away until they
No, polio was
introduced
not
the
going away
vaccination.
because we used
The
vaccines.
vaccination, no, that made it worse.
No,
Honestly, they gave more people polio with the
No,
vaccination.
that's
True.
just straight up
True,
lying.
true.
No.
That's the mainstream.
Polio helped a lot of children not die because of like the disease. I don't know.
Okay, well, I'm not going to convince you, but I'm just telling you that I used to believe what you believe, and I know that all of that was fed to me as my part of my education to make me believe in the vaccine programs.
So, with your thoughts and you have a large group of people who think the same as you, right?
Not that
No,
large,
not
but
like
in
quite,
terms of
but-
flat Earth,
yeah,
there are
yeah,
millions
like
of people
quite,
now.
yeah.
Millions
There
of
are a
people
lot of
across the
people
Earth.
also
But-
thinking that the Earth is like a dinosaur.
Yeah.
What? Dinosaurs are also a fake, by the way.
Yeah.
That's also another lie.
But who's telling?
no.
So you're telling me dinosaurs never existed?
No, but bigger animals existed, yes.
Yeah, of course. Dinosaurs.
But not
And
dinosaurs.
but what should change? I mean, look, we have those like shopping malls and we have like bank cards and we have money and so on.
Yeah.
But with all your beliefs, I mean, they're like so far away from the things that we know nowadays.
Yeah.
So if we would start to believe you
Yeah.
and so on, that would like completely change everything.
Yeah, you're right.
What has to change?
I think it's an inward journey. I think we're meant to change ourselves, not necessarily the outside world. So I'm not calling, although I say that the banks are stealing your energy and your money, and the government is stealing, and the taxes you shouldn't be paying and stuff like that. I do think that the mankind is meant to do his own inner work and not necessarily seek to change the whole system.
Okay.
So it's about doing the soul journey, becoming the best version of yourself, and that being the best
can I then
you
ask
can do.
something?
Yeah.
We learned that like in middle school. We're staying in a park, right?
Where?
That's a park.
A park.
A park. Yeah. That's the space I remember. You go to the hospital, I guess, for like treatments and stuff like that.
I mean, in emergency, I would. But,
Emergency.
yeah.
Are you paying for it, or is like your insurance paying for it?
Like in Germany, our insurance is paying.
Yeah. Is it in the UK the same? So your
Yeah,
insurance
there is
pays?
an insurance that pays for it.
So that works. You can say in the park because we pay taxes to build this park. So why should we like not pay any taxes?
So do you know that all the big cities, Düsseldorf, Munich,
Yeah.
all of them were built before the invention of income tax?
Yeah, and see how far they went from.
They were beautiful cities, beautiful cities.
Yeah, but
and
no one
they
taxes.
did that.
No one is saying that they were ugly.
Remember, a lot of the
But they
taxes
were-
we pay
they
are
had no sewage
okay.
system.
A lot of the taxes we pay are to pay off for war. Germany pays an awful lot of money for war, and the bankers are the same bankers they pay back are the bankers who lent the money to both sides
Yeah,
to
but
fund that war. So
I
that's part
guess-
of what your tax is. But here's the other thing. This is the crazy thing: is that if the Earth is flat, it's a created Earth. We are all owners. We are all inheritors of the Earth. And there's a truth in that, and that the Vatican knows this, and that's why they have a birth certificate for you, because they create this legal fiction that they can steal your God-given energy. Because each of us is meant to be an inheritor of the Earth, and what they do is they use your birth certificate to trade and get money for the state. So actually, there's plenty of money around. Money can be created for these things. The illusion of you needing to pay tax is questionable. Should you be contributing to your community? Yes. But to pay tax for someone else's war, to pay tax for things that you don't want or you don't need, then why should you do that?
I want to park, so should I just stop?
Well, you want to park, yeah. But the thing is that if we lived in an honest, open world, it should be like, wow, the government is set up to create the parks and the spaces and the places for you to enjoy. But you don't have to pay to enjoy them. You shouldn't have to pay to enjoy them.
And the beautiful cities pay taxes because they realize, you just need to look at like old German cities, how shitty they were. People were constantly getting sick because sewer water was on the street. They built sewer systems because of taxes to involve the city, and see how far they
Do you drink the tap water now?
Not in the UK, definitely not in the UK.
I wouldn't drink
But,
it anyway.
No, I drink it in Germany. It's
Because-
fine. We've actually tested it in chemistry class. It's pretty fine.
Pretty fine?
No, what high school I mean, it's pretty fine. It's fine.
No, you see, because the thing with municipal water is that they have to treat it in order to bring it to you. They have to put chlorine in. They have to put things in the water.
Yeah, they have to clean it.
Yeah.
So yeah. So no, not well. Yes, I understand that, but I would say that we can't drink the tap water today
Why?
because it's foul, because it's full of chemicals. It's
But
not
what
natural.
water do you drink then?
Yeah.
Distilled.
Do you go in the supermarket?
Distilled.
You didn't realize
Distilled
how
water.
un-
You distill your water, make it pure.
That is.
Pure water, rainwater is pure water.
Oh, that's like full of shit. I
What?
was not
Rainwater? You really?
Yeah, I was like in a camp in the summer holidays for 2 weeks. We collect rainwater. I would not drink rainwater.
Okay, but you were collecting it with what?
We were collecting it on an open space in the middle of Germany in the forest where the air should be clear and stuff like that. So I would not drink like the.
You wouldn't drink rainwater?
Yeah, I would not.
Oh.
And now if you tell me.
But
yeah,
tap water, yeah?
Yeah, I would because it was treated.
Okay.
And I know that there are probably not a lot of like, what do you call it, CO2 and stuff like that. I saw how dirty it was. And
The rainwater was dirty?
Yeah,
You
the
sure there
rainwater.
wasn't just like stuff that got onto
No,
the
I'm
collection?
pretty sure we put like those things that were clear because we wanted to drink them.
I
'Cause
mean,
one
you're
time-
not gonna die from drinking. I mean, if you're like starving and are like
Yeah.
so thirsty, yeah, you can drink it. It's fine.
Or rainwater. So you,
Yeah,
you
it
guys
keeps
believe
you
that the
alive.
rainwater is so toxic that it's only in an emergency that you would drink it?
Yeah, I would
Wow.
drink it in an emergency or
So-
if I'm really, really thirsty, but not like usually.
Not yet.
casually.
Okay, so when I was in London, I came across this distilled water idea, and I tested a bucket of rainwater that I put out in London. I'm living in London, and I put it in outdoors. I collect the water, and I put one of those electronic probes in it that can measure the particles, the dirt in the water. And there was only 4 or 5 parts per million in there. But the tap water's got 300 parts per million. And the Evian has got 320 parts